Thanks for hitting the recording early, Susie. Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday at 10:45. Welcome to your Halloween lead version here today. Hope everybody has a safe evening here, and especially if you have kids out trick or treating. You're going to hear from myself, Laura, Lisa, and Eric. Charlie is out setting up cross country in the rain or snow, whatever he has, and Phil's down working state soccer. We'd also like to thank those of you that hosted our quarterfinal for state soccer, and also for those that will be hosting our state quarterfinals for football. We couldn't do that without our member schools chipping in, and we greatly appreciate it. Tennis finished last week. Congratulations to our champions there and all who participated. And while we're finishing up fall, we've had dance has already begun, and girls hockey as well. So good luck to those sports as we get rolling into the winter season, which is a great segue into our agenda for this week. You're going to get a bit of fall, but you're also going to get a bit of the winter season. We have a lengthy agenda as always. We welcome those that are live in attendance and also those that are listening to the recording. And thank you to our lead liaisons this week again for their input and insight on this week's agenda. We have a lot to get to. Again, feel free to share these slides or information with those it assists. We had a great turnout in our ninth grade governance vote. Thank you for your action on that. And at this time, Eric's going to give us more detail regarding, again, our ninth grade governance vote. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. An exciting time for the Minnesota State High School League. Great participation by our schools, and you as leaders in your area. Really appreciate all that you did to assist your superintendents or board reps, whoever it is that voted. 82% of our member schools, over 500, actually took part in the vote. Great support for both of the questions. The 97.5% affirmative vote is specific to the ninth grade aspect. Actually, on the other question, it was 99%. So very unanimous in terms of the support that we've seen there. A lot of people working really hard to make sure folks had information and took action. Not going to name all of those people that were part of that, but just a great turnout and a ton of support. And so I think people's questions is what happens next and how does this all move forward? And so as you're aware, we do have a ninth grade governance task force that has been meeting since April to talk about what ifs and planning for needed changes in language to make sure that our Constitution and other aspects, our bylaws, will accurately reflect what now is the truth relative to ninth grade. And ultimately what it does is it brings our ninth grade into a consistent status as the rest of our 10th through 12th graders and erases some of that inconsistency that's been there before. So excited by that. If you've been to area meetings or been on lead, that we're going to be talking about things like requirements for coaches, game limitations, participation limitations, those kinds of things, and really drawing that bright line between programs and or grade levels that are governed by the high school league versus those that are not. Ultimately, the rep assembly will be the one to approve changes in bylaw that would take place in May. And so those potential bylaw changes will go through our board from the task force with recommendation to approve those. And the board will then send them on to the rep assembly. If there are board policies that need some adjustment, those can be done by our board in conjunction with any of the bylaw changes that would come forward. So continuing forward, we're planning for next year to be a 9-12 organization, basically top to bottom, all levels. And we've heard a lot of good feedback from our schools, specifically through our ADs, about things that they would like us to include, things like titles of teams and how do we make sure that we know that they're MSHSL teams. So really important change, and appreciate again everyone's participation. So Bob, anything I left out there?
No, really good job, Eric. And I would just reiterate that not only is it allowing us to be more consistent in our state, but we become more consistent nationally with this model as well. We will keep you up to date on board policy changes or proposed changes as we get closer to that rep assembly where bylaw will change. And then also post bylaw changes, if there are policies that were to change as well, we will keep you updated both through our liaisons and lead. Other than that, we'll continue to move forward. We've had a really nice fall. Thanks for your work and how you communicate with each other in terms of how you're hosting your events and your contests. I think part of the credit goes to your leadership within your student body as well. We're going to move forward here and talk about Together 3.0, and Lisa's here to do that for us. Lisa?
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. We are less than 2 weeks away from our first Together regional meeting in Willmar, and we are just really excited for the learning and great work that your students and you will do at this conference. Thanks to those who have registered. There is still time to register to make sure that your students have the opportunity to participate. Shared on this slide some of our really great topics. We have fantastic national and local leaders who are ready and excited to work with your kids. We have had a steering committee put together to make sure that we're addressing topics that we heard loud and clear from our SALT team that they want to hear about and learn more on. And so we have a great list there of topics that you can look through, as well as some information for you on your dashboard. A really good encouragement to attend, and Bob mentioned it before, behavior is always challenging, especially as we move from outside to inside in the winter. And this is a great way to kick off your winter season. It's a great opportunity for you to build relationships with other schools in your areas, as well as really empower and impact those student leaders you have in your buildings. And again, like I said, if we want to switch to the next slide, this is my shameless plug to say that there is still time to register. Registration is available on your dashboard. Again, the dates are listed here. We have well over 1,000 students registered right now, and we are looking forward to making sure there's a spot for your school and your students. This is a free event and lunch is included. We plan on being done by 1 o'clock so your schools can get back to the things that they need to do after a school day. So again, feel free to register anytime you can in the next couple of weeks, as we are looking forward to that November 12th kickoff. And with that being said, we know that you are wrapping up a great fall. Thank you for all of your work with your students, with your coaches, and with your communities. Fall is an exciting time to kick off. And as you're wrapping it up, a couple things to remember to do is compile those participation numbers. There is an opportunity for you on your dashboard under Minnesota State High School League management. There's a link that you can put your participation numbers on. There's a workbook spreadsheet for you to just record those. And then in May, we open up the actual link for you to submit them. So now is a good time to make sure you're recording those for fall and keeping track of them somewhere. Again, just a reminder, we talked about this at area meetings. Roger actually talked about it a little bit with the new state statute about letting head coaches go within the 60-day time frame. As you're working on your coach evaluations this fall, make sure you're keeping that in mind and working with your HR office as well as your district leadership on those pieces to make sure that you're falling within those guidelines and statutes. Also, as you're doing those coach evaluations, a reminder to have them fill out that summer coaching waiver if they want to work with your students over the summer. This is available now for fall coaches, and it's a great piece to add into your fall wrap up with your coaches. And as we wrap up fall, we are, again, as Bob said, kind of going full steam into winter. And we have some winter reminders for you as well to make sure that you can kick off your season in a great fashion with dance and girls hockey going on already, making sure that your teams are prepared for any new rules or policies related to health and safety. A big one this year, especially in girls and boys hockey, is that neck laceration protection is required for 2024-25 season. So that is this year, neck laceration protection is required for those teams. So make sure you're working with your coaches to ensure that you have kids who are ready to participate in a healthy and safe manner. Again, you guys do a great job with these, but making sure your preseason meetings are started with your coaches, your participants, and your families. It really helps set the tone if you're able to connect with those groups and ensure them that you are ready for a really fantastic winter season. On that same line, making sure students and coaches are eligible. It's a great time to go over with your coaches the CERs that are required for them. On your dashboard, you're able to monitor those, and we really encourage you to do that ahead of time versus waiting till the end of the season. If you get a note from us saying you're in section finals, and please make sure these coaches have this done. It's a good opportunity at the beginning of the season to just go over those. And then students, making sure your students are eligible and ready to participate. Know who's on your teams, know where they came from the season before. If you have a new student, know how they got to your school and that they're eligible to participate and at what level they're eligible to participate. So working with your coaches on that as well. And then event management, always a big piece of the pie when it comes to winter and making sure that you are prepared for your events. We have a tool for you called the contest administrative and medical timeout. This is something that's highly recommended, and we would really encourage you to continue to use this. We've heard great feedback this fall. We developed this program to assist you to ensure that your contests and environments are safe and healthy, as well as there is good communication on whose role is what during an event. Gives your site managers, your coaches, and your officials, as well as any medical personnel that will be at the activity, a plan and ensuring that everyone follows with their roles, making sure your emergency action plans are in place for winter and that they're practiced at least once in the beginning of your season. Again, there is really good information for you on your dashboard as far as this medical timeout. There is actually a toolbar right on the bottom with lots of good printouts and information that you can share with your staff. And again, lots of information and good work out there. At this time, Bob, I will send it back to you.
Very good. We're going to give Lisa a chance to breathe here for a bit. Thank you for all of that, Lisa. All that information, Lisa, and we've been reminded today that we are definitely into winter. Throughout over the course of the last several months, including within our 9th grade governance vote, we've had conversation about who can and cannot participate in your practices. And around the state, we've heard this. Around the state, we've discussed this. At the same time, we continue to look at and try and limit your liability. You will receive a memo later from us, maybe as soon as this afternoon when we make sure that we have it right, clarifying some of this information. But when you think about your practices for your sports, knowing who is in your practices is where you start. There's a number of policies and bylaws that reference this, things like scrimmaging, contest games, and different bylaws like the 500s, who you can play. But questions really come to this. When you're practicing, are you practicing against who is either on your team or against who you may be playing? And that would often look like a scrimmage if it's not a contest. Remember, a scrimmage consists of two teams who are in the same sport. So when you think about bringing boys into a girls' practice, whether they're on your boys' team or not, or a group of boys from the hallway or a Phi Ed class into your girls' practice, know that that would not be backed up by either legislative language and or bylaw or policy according to the Minnesota State High School League. Make sure that your teams are practicing against and with each other, and know that there is a difference with practicing against someone physically versus with someone. We believe that golf foursome that might consist of 2 boys and 2 girls in a practice round, they would be practicing with each other, not physically against each other. Bringing boys in a 5-on-5 or a 5-on-4 setting into a girls' practice to compete against each other in the form of a practice would not be allowed or backed up again according to policy, but we'll get memo language out to you We'll clarify participation and practice and what that looks like. And again, that would be our interpretation of policy and bylaw. Again, as we said, we'll get that memo as soon as we can, potentially as soon as this afternoon in our update. At this point, though, we're going to move into communication and analysis that we're doing from our office to make sure, again, that we're communicating effectively and efficiently with you. And Laura is going to talk more about that. Laura?
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. As shared in last week's update, the league is working through a communications analysis process, which is really giving us an opportunity to look at the ways that we communicate with a number of different stakeholder groups, get some feedback on that, and then begin to make some plans on ways to improve and continue the things that we're already doing. As ADs and others, you all have an opportunity to participate in the first part of that, which is the survey that was linked in last week's update and will be again linked in this week's update. Please take some time and provide that feedback to us. It's very appreciated. The analysis will move forward then with the bringing in of some focus groups, which some of our ADs and others across the state will be asked to participate in. And then our person doing the analysis will also look at a number of artifacts. The goal of all of this, as we said, is to look at those tools and messages that we're using to send out and to better understand the needs of each of you and how we can better meet those needs. So again, a thank you for those of you who have completed the survey and an encouragement to others to please take the time to do that. A few website tips and things that we are receiving a number of questions on right now. This screenshot is one that you may want to capture and share out with your coaches. This is really a reminder on that. Where do I find specific sport or activity specific information for my sport? And a reminder that that is on the dashboard, behind that My Sports and Activities button, and then those blue bands. And again, as ADs, you know this well, but if you have new coaches, this can be a very helpful screenshot and or set of directions to share with them. That left-hand column on activity resources, folks in our office right now are filling that for all of the winter sports. That's where you'll find many things that will facilitate you in managing your sport during the season. And a reminder again here, you and your coaches see the same things behind these bands. So you should be able to share with them, this is where you find it, and feel confident that if you see it there, they will also be seeing that in this spot. And then the second piece is, again, as you're aligning your coaches in your coach roster tools so that they receive the right learning. If you are in a co-op, the host school of that co-op is really the one that manages that co-op. They are our primary communication out for that co-op. They are also the ones that manage and check the learning of coaches in that co-op. So if you are in a co-op and you are the host, make sure that you have those coaches on your members list, that you've assigned them to the right sport, and again, that you are monitoring that learning to make sure it's done. In response to a number of questions that we seem to be answering in the same time, we did develop a one-page tip sheet called Managing Co-op Coaches, and you can find that underneath that website help guide. So again, if this is new to you as a co-op coach, if it's a new spot for you, there's a tip sheet for you to go in and grab some additional information. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Bob.
Very good. Thanks for all your work in the area of communication, Laura. And 'tis the season to start thinking about competitive section placement for the next 2-year cycle. As we start to get our questions from our non-publics, you're going to see that in today's Thursday update. It's also located on the website under competitive section placement. But the non-public report form and the enrollment of free and reduced lunch, which you have the ability to do, is due by the 29th, and that is available immediately for you to begin working on. I was reminded today, in order for us to place the most accurate information in our competitive activities and sports, we need to know what your co-ops are going to be. If you know that you are going to have a new co-op beginning in 25 and 26, or for 27 and 28, we would like that in, and we need that in order to be considered to be placed correctly by January 24th of next year. So do not wait to begin on co-ops. That's going to be a common message as we finish today's lead meeting, but make sure that you get going on those co-op applications, work with your conference and or your regions, and make sure your board approves those. Have those to us by the end of January, so we can place your co-ops in any sports or competitive activities correctly. As always, we will get you more information regarding this timeline as it becomes more and more relevant heading into 2025. With that, you're going to hear about it again from Eric here on our quick takes.
Thanks, Bob. And again, when we're talking about co-ops, third slide in a row, one thing it does is speaks to the prevalence of how many co-ops we have within our state. But reminder that we do have a deadline for those submissions, and that has been a challenge for some 30 days prior to the start of the season. So that means that all of our winter applications should already be in, done, and processed, and that allows us to do the appropriate review with our conferences and our regions to make sure that those have been approved, and then also to do the appropriate placement within section. So the reminder here is not only thinking about next year, but also if there's anything on your list for spring. So you're wrapping up fall, you're starting the winter season, and if there's a co-op for spring that needs to be adjusted or changed, now is the time to get that rolling. Get your boards on for all of the schools involved to approve that and get that paperwork coming our way. If you do have questions on co-ops, your first stop is Amanda Johnson. She does a great job of explaining how to get those things taken care of. And as I said, we have a great number of co-ops, and so we need your help in making sure we meet those deadlines. Second one, another thing to remind you of, Form A and Form B applications for the Minnesota State High School League Foundation are now due. November 15th is right around the corner. And so if you have not completed that, everybody on the call should be completing a Form A application. It is very straightforward to do. Again, we will be glad to assist. On the other side, Form B applications are for those character leadership conferences, sometimes health and safety needs that you have, training opportunities perhaps for coaches or ADs, specific to conferences or sections or things like that that you want to do. Already this year, on behalf of the NFHS Foundation, as well as the High School League Foundation, we have distributed or promised 32 AEDs going out to 32 different schools. If you have a need in that particular space, now is the time to put an application together and get that in. And again, we've done Form A and Form B together at the same time. I shouldn't say together, but at the same time, two different applications. Form A, we were above 300 schools the last couple of years. Last year, we dipped to about 280. So please get those Form A applications in to help assist students who might have socioeconomic barriers to being able to pay for their activity fees. With that, I think I am turning it over to Laura for your checklist.
All right, thanks, Eric. And closing out today, checklist of items to be thinking about end of October, early November as we're at this stage. Many of these things you've heard about today. Register for the Together statewide conferences. The first one is in less than 2 weeks. Reminder to have your fall coaches complete that summer coaching waiver request. In your website help guide, there is some sample language for you to use if you want to email that out to coaches. As Lisa shared earlier, continue to compile your participation numbers as your fall seasons wrap up. Getting those fall participation numbers done is very helpful. We'll ask for those formally in May. As Eric shared, Form A and B are due November 15th for the foundation. Preseason memos are coming out from our office for each sport and activity. Those are being sent to head coaches and ADs. Please take the time with your head coaches to review the important information that's in each one of those. That reminder for hockey that neck laceration protectors are required for this season in both boys and girls hockey. And then the big one as we move into competitive section placement, that non-public form is due for non-public schools wishing to submit by November 29th. And then co-ops, as Eric shared, co-ops for 25-26 should be completed and in by January 24th of 2025. Bob, with that, I'll turn it back to you for a quick wrap up.
All right, very good. Our treat to you on Halloween is we are going to finish in less than a half an hour. So this concludes our lead meeting. Thank you again for your attendance. Have a great week.